Hi, this is Travis with another video for you guys. Again, I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I've also been a personal trainer about 15 years. And so today I'm going to show you guys another weight vest video. I'm calling it 1.5 and not 2 because I'm pretty much going to show some progressions and some variations on part 1. So it's basically going to be an extension of that video. Eventually I'll get around to a part 2 where I show some different exercises. But for now, this is some pretty cool stuff I want to throw at you guys today. I hope you like it. Definitely feel free to comment below and let me know what you guys think. As usual, I'm going to pretty much save my commentary for the end. So for those of you that want to get started, go ahead and grab your weight vest and off we go. Okay, so before, you might remember I talked about doing some lunging as well as some split squats. So again, with the split squat, you kind of leave your feet in the same spot and you go straight down for an elevator ride and then you come back up. And that was how we did the split squat before. Now, you can also make that a little more dynamic and turn that into a lunge. And so with doing a lunge, you're going to actually go forward and then push back to where you start. And that's a really cool exercise to do. Another really cool exercise I like is an exercise called a traveling lunge. And so it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. I know a lot of you have probably seen it before. Now, sometimes if you're in a little more limited space, you may not have a lot of runway. So you don't always have to travel that far. You know, you can do just a couple steps forward and then a couple steps back. And what I like to do with the traveling lunge is also travel backwards. So rather than just going to a certain spot, turning around and then coming back, what I'll tend to do is I'll go forward. So if I were to do my traveling lunge, I would come forward, go into my next step, come forward, okay? Now let's just say I'm at a runway there. Then what I would do is I would reverse my lunge back, push back to where I started, reverse my lunge back, and then come back. And so you can just do that in a pretty limited space. So I can go forward, okay, go back, and again push back to where I started. And I really like that pushing back because when you lunge backwards, it's really a great quadricep exercise. You really have to kind of explode off the ground. It does a great job really hammering those quadricep muscles. So that's a cool variation for those of you that are looking to mix up your lunges or your split squats also. Really get after those thigh muscles. So that's the traveling lunge, forward and back. Now, a similar exercise that kind of works your hip muscles a little bit more, but also really gets after those quadriceps is a move that they call a skater step. And I think that's kind of a cool variation on a lunge. And so the simplest way to do that is you kind of shuffle to the side, kind of hinging forward your hips. You don't want to flex your back, so your back again stays straight. And then you go your hands on the vest like this, okay? And this is just kind of getting into the pee-wee version of it. Now you can start to step a little bit farther and sink into it a little bit lower to make it a little bit harder. Now the key, especially with a weighted vest on, is you don't want to have that real hard impact. You can be explosive when you go out, but you also want to be kind of soft on the landing. So just make sure that if you decide you want to really bound and go far in each direction, you're not necessarily going to be putting a lot of impact on your knees. And so, you know, again, just to get a feel for it, you might want to even just kind of get used to weight shifting side to side in that direction. Gradually start to kind of unlock that hip a little bit, so you kind of almost squat into it, you know. And sometimes you'll see people kind of swing their arms into this. And so what I'll do is I'll just kind of go back and forth. Now when I'm doing that exercise, you know, I'm really feeling things. And so I just go back and forth, and again, you can go same kind of thing, you know, 10, 15 in each direction, whatever you can manage. I would say though, try to see if you can gradually kind of sit into it a little bit lower, and that's kind of a really cool progression. Just make sure your knee kind of stays stationed over your feet though. So when you plant, you shouldn't feel like you're, you know, really, you know, deviating from your foot. So as you plant, you know, your shins should stay, you know, pretty much vertical right over your foot. That's definitely going to put some strain on your knee if your knee's moving too far back and forth. So, you know, again, the key is always trying to challenge the muscle without injuring yourself. So if you're not ready for all that yet with a vest on, obviously try it without it. But it's a cool exercise for those of you that can do it. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the squat now. This is a really cool exercise. I showed how to do it with just the vest in the original video. Now don't forget though, you can always combine different concepts. So for those of you that have seen some of my other videos, you might have noticed how I squat with one of these bands. Now you can add a band and a vest into the mixture, so don't feel like you only have to do one thing. Because I've seen a lot of articles and I've seen people say that, oh well, you're not really going to get as good of a workout at home. You can't challenge yourself quite as much, your lift is heavy. You know, particularly when you don't have a lot of equipment or you're just using bands. And I would have to disagree. I would say that you can get yourself pretty darn strong. You know, if you get creative, you have some bands, maybe a vest like this. So I've got 75 pounds of vest on, which is a little heavier than a barbell. And then if you can start adding, some high tension bands into the mixture. So, again, I'll put these links at the bottom. I've got some super bands by Perform Better. I'm not gonna use the heaviest one I have, but just gonna use this one so it's easy to see. Put this around the back of you somewhere where it's gonna hang on. Get this thing underneath my feet. Then from there, you can go into your squats. And so the cool thing is now, I've got quite a bit of weight on me because this band is definitely fighting me at the top. And then I've also got the constant 75 pounds on me. So this is definitely gonna be a pretty tough way, to squat in your living room. And again, the sky's really the limit with these bands. So don't feel like you can't go as heavy as you'd like to. And I think that's a pretty fantastic exercise. Really works your legs. And again, what research has also shown is it doesn't always have to be super heavy. So unless you're just trying to get as strong as possible, or you have to do that because you're a power athlete of some sort, power lifter, football player, if you're only going to really increase your muscle size, you can get there by just going to failure. And so you don't necessarily have to do the conventional, singles or, even triples or 5 sets of 5. You can go up to 20 or even 30 reps. You just want to take your body to that point where you really can't do another rep. And that's what we call going to failure. And as long as you can get to failure, about 30 reps, I think you're covering most of your bases when it comes to muscle size. So if you can do more than 30 reps, you might be doing a little bit of what they call junk reps, where you're doing some reps that don't really give your body much of an adaptational advantage. But if you can get tired in 30 reps, I think that's a good number to shoot for. So, just because you don't necessarily have a ton of weight, you can always do more reps to get that fatigue, go take that muscle to failure, so you're getting those adaptations you're looking for. So that's the squat. So pretty cool ways to make that exercise a little more challenging for those of you that are feeling like it's not that tough for you. Okay, so I showed how to do a conventional push-up last time. Nothing too fancy. You put a vest on and you do some push-ups. But if you're getting to a point where you're wanting to make that a little bit harder, there's some pretty simple ways you can do it that'll actually make it a little more interesting as well. A cool version I like to do is where I'll go into a push-up position, I'll move one hand toward the other, go back to a push-up position, do my push-up, go back to where I started, do a push-up. So I'm pretty much going across, push-up, across, push-up. And you basically just try to see how many times you can go back and forth. Now for those of you that can do, say, 20 or 30 of those, I think that's a pretty cool variation to throw at yourself. If you're barely getting 10, 15, you may not get too much out of that exercise because it is quite a bit harder. It's probably going to cut your push-ups almost about in half. So that's a cool variation for those of you looking to up the ante a little bit. Maybe you're outgrowing your vest a little bit and want to figure out a way to make it harder. That one does a nice job working some of those shoulder stabilizing muscles a little bit more, in addition, to the same muscles you're going to work with a push-up. So another thing you guys are going to notice when you're doing push-ups with the vest is that you're going to end up not going down as far because you have this extra weight in front of you. Unless you've got just a backpack on and you don't have an extra weight in front, you're going to end up doing kind of more of a partial range. And so one thing you can very simply do, it also does a really nice job challenging your sort of wrist stabilizing muscles here, is to do it on your fists, okay? And so if I go into a push-up position here, and now I do my push-ups like that, now I'm definitely going down a little bit farther and also challenging some of my wrist muscles a little bit more. So that's also a really cool variation for those of you that are looking to get a little more out of push-ups with a weighted vest on. Obviously though, make sure you feel ready for that, because if you inadvertently, go into extreme flexion with your wrist, you definitely could probably sprain some of those ligaments there. So make sure you're ready for that. I would get comfortable maybe doing push-ups on your fists without a vest first, and then gradually increase the weight so you're building up that strength. But if you can do that, that's a pretty cool variation that increases the range of motion and definitely gonna put more of a demand on those muscles. A really cool exercise I like, and I like this because it sort of simulates another exercise called a pullover, is to do one of these ab wheels. And so if you're getting to a point where doing an ab wheel is not as challenging for you anymore, obviously adding a vest on definitely ups the ante. And so again, I'll just come over the weight here. I don't tend to come all the way back to my knees, just about to here is fine. Roll that guy out as far as you're comfortable, and then come back. Okay, so the last exercise is going to combine your weight vest with a band again. The band's just going to be a handle on this one, but it makes it a pretty cool way to do sort of a barbell or a curl type movement with a vest. Now you can just hold the shoulder straps of the vest, but sometimes the handle gets a little bulky or just kind of awkward because then the vest kind of hits more into your chest and you can't get as fluid of a movement. And so what I'll do if you have one of these thicker bands is I'll just feed it through here, take the ends in my hands like this and just kind of shore it up, okay? Now what you might need to do is come a little wide to your stance so it's not going to hit your legs. And then from there, just keep your abs drawn in, you know, just kind of brace and then just go ahead and do a curl, okay? And this is a pretty cool exercise because the weight is so far away from where it normally is. So it keeps the weight, actually keeps it farther away from your hands. And so it's just kind of a unique way to work your biceps in sort of an unstable position because this is still kind of wiggling a little bit. So I don't know if any of you ever remember a thing, it was a bamboo bar and you put weights on the end, sometimes attached to a band, and it was kind of unstable. So this is sort of a way to simulate that. And it's a really cool exercise I like doing that I've added into the mixture, that it really allows you to work those arms in kind of a unique way and works your shoulder stabilizers a little bit. In the other video I showed how to do more of a horizontal row where you combine the band and the vest. So now you can do the rows, you can do the curls, you know, kind of variations on a common theme because both of them tend to work your biceps quite a bit. Obviously the row also gets into the upper back and shoulder muscles, but that's there for you for those of you that want to try it. So that's kind of my encore for today. Okay, so that's the video for today for you guys. I hope you like some of those variations. Again, don't be shy, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. You know, the vest can be a bit more of an investment depending on which one you have. Again, I have the one from weightvest.com, which is a pretty good vest, and I think it's pretty durable, and I've had some good use with it. I had another one in the past that was made more of a neoprene material, and it kind of stretched out, so that one wasn't as good. But you know, it doesn't really matter what vest you have per se, as long as you've got the weight and it's evenly distributed and it fits you pretty well. So that's my 2 cents on the weighted vest. I think it's a pretty cool product because, you know, I didn't really use weighted vests that much before this whole COVID epidemic happened. And, you know, I think it's a bit of a unique feel. It definitely has challenged me in some ways I wasn't used to before I started using one. You know, I was more of a conventional, you know, go in the gym kind of guy, and I did that, and I was pretty strong in that sense. But the vest definitely upped the ante in some ways. And, you know, I was actually pretty humbled by it because, like, this vest, for instance, is 50 with an attachment. Sometimes I'll put on 75. And, you know, for somebody that could squat, you know, a few plates and do different things, you know, when I put this vest on and I wore it for a while, you know, it was actually more challenging than I expected it to be. So for those of you that are in a place to get one, it's a pretty cool tool. For your next video, I'm going to be talking about a cool product called an iron neck. So that's a cool thing you can also use at home. So stay tuned, and I'll be putting that out hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And then eventually I'm going to get back into more band content. So for those of you that have been following this channel for a while and are wondering where that's at, also in the pipeline. So stay tuned, and good stuff coming your way. And as always, I hope you guys have some fun.